The first step to spirituality is discipline. And yet, if you look around us, you find this discipline completely missing. We don't seem to know the spelling of discipline, whether it is in our eating or television viewing or driving is a nightmare. As against this, you go to a place like the UK, at an intersection where there are no traffic lights, there is no honking, no confusion, no gridlocking, everything goes smoothly. It is an unwritten law that one car goes this way, another car goes the other way. And yet, in the Indian culture, we have a fascinating combination of total discipline, yet complete freedom. How do the two go together? In fact, the two must go together. It is discipline, self-discipline, that allows you to make full use of the freedom that you are endowed with. It's no use being disciplined if you're regimented, if you're robotic in your movements and your life. There must be discipline accompanied by freedom. And this is an outstanding feature of Indian culture. And you see it manifested in everything, whether it is Indian music or art or whatever it be. There is discipline and freedom combined. So, what is this discipline is symbolized in the picture of the chariot, the famous chariot that is portrayed originally in the Kathopanishad and is today equated with the Bhagavad Gita. What does this chariot represent? Let's take a look at the chariot per se and see what it signifies. This chariot consists of 5 horses. The horses are energetic, healthy, strong, and yet they're raring to go, they're raring to run. But they're guided, they're firmly held with the reins by the charioteer, as you can see here in the picture. And the charioteer is portrayed here in the picture, in the Gita picture, as Lord Krishna, who is an expert charioteer. So, an expert charioteer is one who knows exactly how to guide the horses. Because if you hold the reins too tight, the horses can't move, they get paralyzed. If the reins are held too loose, then each horse goes its different way and the chariot crashes. You don't go to your destination. When the charioteer is skilled and alert, both the qualities the charioteer needs, then what happens is the reins are held just right, not too loose, not too tight. And the horses are guided beautifully on the journey, on the path to your destination. The passenger, who is Arjuna here, Arjuna represents the individual, you and me, we reach our destination. The question is, where are we? The 5 horses represent the 5 senses. The 5 senses in us must be healthy, energetic, full of life, raring to go. But the journey must not be the journey of the senses, which it often is with us. It should be your journey. And how can it be your journey? It can be your journey only when you hold the senses just right, control the senses, not too loose, not indulgent, so that each sense goes its way and you crash. Not too tight, so that you get completely frustrated. Just right. And you move effortlessly. The journey is yours, the destination is yours, the speed is fixed by you, everything is determined by you. And effortlessly you reach your destination. So the first thing that we need to exercise before we even begin on the spiritual path is sense control. That's why in the second chapter, the Sthita Prajna portion, a fabulous portion, which starts off, actually the Gita begins there, with a description of a person of perfection. First of all, the question arises, is perfection within our purview? Is perfection something that we can even achieve? And if so, how do you achieve it? What is the hallmark of a perfect individual? This is Arjuna's question in verse 54, and the following 18 verses are Krishna's brilliant reply. This portion, incidentally, was Mahatma Gandhi's favorite portion, which he recited every single day of his life, even before he began his day's activities. And for those of you who are interested, this portion is available in a book called Profile of a Perfect Person, which is available outside. But as far as we are concerned, that portion speaks of sense control. He says, Tani sarvani sanyamya yukta asita matparaha. Before you embark on the spiritual path, first thing that you must do is control all the senses. What is this control? Everybody speaks of control. Everyone speaks of you must have self-control, sense control. But what exactly is sense control, we don't know. And this portion, verse 64 of chapter 2, spells it out. He says, first of all, what you must do is, every one of us is born with distinct likes and dislikes, raga, dvesha, which drive you to activity. So whether it is the kind of food you eat, the kind of people that you hang out with, the type of movies that you see, etc., etc. The first step to sense control is scan your likes and dislikes. Watch your likes and dislikes. Let the intellect guide your likes and dislikes. Don't do a thing just because you like it. Don't avoid a thing just because you dislike it. Think about it. And if your intellect sanctions it, by all means go ahead and enjoy it. But if for any reason your intellect says no, then you must have the courage to follow the conviction, the advice of your intellect. This is the first step to exercising sense control. The second step is, you may not have a particular like and dislike. You may go to a destination because of work, totally guided by your intellect. But for no fault of yours, when you are there, you come across a new experience. Like it happened to me last week when I went to Delhi for a series of lectures. The place, the lady with whom we were staying, first thing in the morning for breakfast, she gave me this exquisite fruit. So sweet. And I asked her, I said, what fruit is this? She said, sarda. You heard of it? Oh, everyone seems to know of it except me. So I said, sarda, what is it? And she says, oh, it comes from Kabul. It's an Afghani fruit. And we enjoyed it. Now, watch where sense control comes in. You are allowed, according to the Gita, you are not violating sense control. If you eat it, you enjoy it, the enjoyment registers in your mind, and you say, wow, this is a delicious fruit. Up to this stage, you're not violating sense control. But what happens is, you come back and you go to Crawford Market looking for sarda. And they say, what's that? It's not available. I don't know whether it's available or not. I'm just giving an example. So then what happens is, you are reliving that experience of sarda. It's a simple example, but this happens to all of us. It may not be sarda, it may be something else. Because your mind lingers on the enjoyment, you're thinking of that particular enjoyment well after the enjoyment is over, complete, finished. What happens? Enjoyment doesn't end with enjoyment. It metamorphoses into a fresh like, a fresh desire that is registered in your system. This is where you are violating sense control. Now, is it not true that we are violating sense control all the time? So you go to Delhi for a particular purpose, you come back having fulfilled the purpose, but you come back with one more desire. Everywhere you go, you're free to enjoy whatever is offered to you, whatever is available to you, but don't let the mind linger in that enjoyment, is what verse 64 says. Simple. What must we do for sense control? Number one, don't allow existing likes and dislikes to directly propel you to action. Second, don't allow a new experience to create a fresh desire in your system. Okay? Next is mind control. First thing that the Gita teaches us is how to develop fine emotions, how to develop love and not attachment, as we saw yesterday. But what is most important is that you must guide these emotions properly. If you have a negative emotion, you must guide that towards positivity. And if you have positive emotions, make sure that you express it discriminately. These are the two things that you need to do. If you don't control even positive emotions, then you're going to end up in trouble. See, why they talk about this control of emotions is that it's difficult enough to feel genuine love, genuine caring for another person. But what is even more difficult, what is even more challenging, is the ability to receive that love from another person without capitalizing on it, without abusing it, without taking advantage of it. So if you have genuine love for people, and the person that you are showering the love on doesn't have the capacity to receive it, what happens? He or she abuses it, capitalizes on it, takes advantage of it, and you end up in greater trouble. So you say, oh, I went loving the person and I got hit very badly. So how do you understand this? We are conducting these courses for school children, and they, like I said yesterday, they pick it up so fast. So there were children, and we asked them, do you have a pet dog? And one or two of the kids say, yes, I have a pet dog. You love the dog? Yes. Do you love a tiger? Yes. And then the kid says, not as much as the dog, but. And then you say, when you go home from school, what happens? Oh, the dog goes crazy, it jumps on me, it licks me, it bites me, it does all sorts of things. What do? I also cuddle the dog. You love the tiger? Yes. Do you go to a tiger and say, hey tiger, I love you so much. Come give me a hug. Can you say that? You can't, because the tiger might decide to have you for breakfast. So the thing that we learn in life is that even though externally we are the same species, human beings, but internally, mentally, we belong to different species. Some of us are ferocious like tigers. So if you're dealing with a tiger-like human being, you can't go and say, come give me a hug. It will only attack you. There are snake-like people among human beings. So if you go anywhere near them, they sting you with the poison. So expression of that love must be discriminate. You must have the love. But think carefully before you express it, otherwise you end up in a negative relationship. And for all of this, what is most important, how do you control the senses and the mind? With what equipment do you control the senses and the mind? Intellect. So when you don't have control over the senses and the mind, what is the problem? Intellect is dormant, yes. It's there, but it's dormant, well put. Or it might be alert, but not strong enough. So you need to develop two things. One is this intellect which you have, but is asleep, dormant, as the gentleman says. You must bring it alive, use it, deploy it all the time. And if it is weak, which it is, strengthen this intellect. And how do you strengthen this intellect? By thinking, questioning, inquiring. And right from childhood, if you are encouraged to think and question and inquire, you grow into a magnificent personality. Your intellect develops. But your parents, the system around you needs a little patience. Otherwise, what happens is, and what happens nowadays, is the moment the child keeps on asking, but why? Why not? Where? How? The mother gets fed up and says, why? Because I say so. Now shut up and do it. That poor child goes to school, same thing. The teacher says, shut up and just do as I say. And later when you get married, of course you have to shut up. So, you go through life like a zombie without thinking. On the other hand, there's a gentleman in New Jersey who, in America, wherever you go, you have to drive at least 45 minutes an hour. And that poor child used to be strapped to that car seat at the back and howl and howl and howl. So just to keep her quiet, the father, while driving, started asking her questions. How does this happen? And asked her puzzles and told her to rhyme words and things like that. And now, at the age of 7, she writes poetry. She thinks. She herself questions. This is what we need to develop. Now, whatever has happened has happened. We are not 7 years old. But at least now start thinking. Question. Why am I doing what I'm doing? Don't just do it blindly because everybody else is doing it. So, strengthen this intellect. And if you're serious about strengthening the intellect, you have to have material, Vedantic material on which to think, and then you transform into a towering personality. It's a person with a strong intellect that succeeds. It's a person with a strong intellect who is happy. And a person with a strong intellect evolves spiritually. So embark on a program of what? Developing the intellect, correct. Now we continue with verse 8.